friends, this is Caitlin back with Possum Stamps. Today we're going to be jumping right in with the Extra Scoop stamp set. This is one of my favorite stamp sets for the spring and summer. It's just so sweet, pun intended, and just makes me so happy. I'm also going to be bringing in the Radiant Burst stencil, and we're going to be making a really pretty not monochromatic, but a very limited color scheme. So I also have some plain white cardstock. That's what I'm going to start building my background ink blended scene on. So I'm going in with some yellow ink first, and I'm trying to use a really light hand on this first layer. I made a yellow circle in the center, and I'm just going to work my way all the way around, slowly building up just a light layer of a light orange ink on top of that. And then the last layer is going to be going in with a pink ink all around the edges, just kind of building up this really soft blend all the way around. This kind of gives me tie-dye feels when it's all done, and I absolutely love it. I just love how these colors are so happy and bright. And to me, this is what really sells it as a spring or summertime card. But honestly, this would be something perfect to have in your card stash for any time of year when maybe you just need to send a friend something sweet to let them know that you're thinking of them. The reason I'm going in with such a light layer of color to begin with is because we're going to be doing some tone on tone blending using that Radiant Burst stencil. So when I say I'm going in with a light hand, I really, really mean it. So to do our stenciling, I am going to line up my stencil on the front and tape it into place on the back, just putting the tape overlapping the cardstock onto the stencil. And then I'm going in with the same colors in the same areas where I already ink blended, just adding in a lot more color and really working that ink into the paper through those the Radiant Burst cutouts. And doing the same thing, right? So just working in a circle, working the yellow first, then going in with the orange. If you wanted this to be even more intense, you could go a shade darker for each of these colors for this step, but I really wanted that true tone on tone, and I still wanted this to be a little light and bright in general. So I just thought that using the same color would be very pretty. And I do love how it turned out. You can see, even though it is still pretty light, you can 100% see the design, and it will really help to support the images that we're adding on top. So speaking of images, we're going to jump into stamping out all of these cute little popsicles. So I picked the two striped popsicles, and then the one that's kind of a cylinder shape. And we're going to be stamping out, my original idea was to have 9, but then I decided I needed room for my sentiment, and you can see my practice template up there in the right corner. So we're going to be stamping out 8 of these. We'll have 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, and then 2 in the middle on either side of my sentiment. And I'm going to be coloring them up so that we get a good variety of colors on each that are going to match with our pink, orange, and yellow background. So I'm going in now with just some plain black ink, and I am stamping in my sentiment right into the center of my circle to start. This is just easier for me to get all of my stamping done at once, and then we will start Copic coloring. I am using some E50 markers to shade in all of the popsicle sticks the exact same way, just adding a little bit of shadow under the popsicle and then along the left-hand side. You could shade these however you wanted. Honestly, you could probably just do one color on these, but I did want a little bit of dimension because I knew I was going to try to really make these popsicles look 3D. So to do that, I am starting out with those cylindrical, the flat popsicles, and I'm adding the shading on my left-hand side, just like on the popsicle stick, going in with my darkest shade as a solid line down the left-hand side, and you can see I'm leaving a highlight area right there. That was really going to help to give that curved effect, and I'll fill that in with the lightest shade. This just gives that bounced light that would happen on a shiny curved object. So I did the same for all 3 of that shape popsicle with the one being pink, one orange, and one yellow. And then all of the stripy popsicles are going to be the same trios, the pink, orange, and yellow, but in the stripes. So I just went through and had a lot of fun mixing up kind of the pattern and the order that these were going in. A couple of them I kept the same. Some, I think the ones that are like more spirally, I changed it up of which one was on the top. But honestly, you could do these however you want. That's why I love images like this where there's no possible wrong way to color this. It just makes me so happy. I'm going in with my darkest shade first, then blending out with my lightest, and then, with my medium, then finishing it off with my lightest shade, which on some of these is just a little sliver right in the middle, but that is okay. It is still going to give us that contrast and that beautiful little highlight pop right in the middle that's going to help to make these look super shiny and refreshing. Where it's the word we're going to go with for today. This card is refreshing. I'm going through with all of my pink shades first, then working my way across all of the orange sections, and then I will wrap it up with the yellows. I am just adding all of my shadows to the left and kind of bottom wherever I can. On these ones that are a little more of that spiral shape, I'm kind of just doing a central highlight for those. When in doubt, it's easier to just pick a side, left or right, and add your shadow to that side. And as long as you're consistent across your images, it's gonna look good when you're done. So if you are stressing out about that, just pick a side, stick with it, and it's gonna be okay. And something like this kind of project with this very repetitive coloring would be great for somebody who wants more practice in coloring or wants to try out some new color combinations, because by the time this was over, I felt like I was an expert at coloring in these popsicles. So if you want to do some practice, I definitely encourage you to try a card like this with a repeat image across your card in multiple spots. It will definitely get you more comfortable with your markers. I went in with a white gel pen to add some shine and highlight to my popsicles. For the stripy ones and the solid ones, I'm just doing pretty much straight lines all the way down, and then for the curved ones, I'm doing little C shapes on the edge just to follow the curve of the artist drawn line. I'm going to use the coordinating dies to get these all lined up and run them through my machine. It did take 3 times. I cut some of that out for you guys so you wouldn't have to sit through multiple taping, and I just love how sweet and simple these look, but they, depending on how you color them, can give such a punch to your card. I am going to start out building up my card base. I have a little tone-on-tone yellow pattern paper here as our base. I'm adding my ink blended layer on top with just some liquid glue so that I can have time to get it positioned where I want it. And when I did my template, I planned out where all of my popsicles were going to go, so that I knew I would have one solid one in each line. And then I realized that because I trimmed down my ink blended panel just a little bit, I didn't have room to put my popsicles all straight up and down. So those corner ones are going to get popped up with foam, and they are going to go at an angle. On the bottom, they're pointing in towards the center, and on the top, they're pointing out from the center. I just love how this really helps to push that circular feel, focusing all of the attention on the sentiment and that bright sunny yellow card center. So I just love how this one turned out. It just makes me so happy, guys. Let's see. I trimmed, I guess the paper I trimmed down, I should tell you, to about 5 inches by 3 3/4. So that gave us that nice frame all the way around. And I adhered the rest of the popsicles down flat with liquid glue, making sure that even though they're 2 different popsicles in the middle, that they were lined up pretty equally distanced from the edge of my ink blended layer. And then it is not a card of mine if I don't get to add some sparkle to it. So I grabbed the Hello Sunshine Sequin mix and sprinkled those all over. I ended up liking having one sequin pretty much corresponding to each popsicle. So some are tucked under, some are overlapping, kind of just depending on whether it's glued down flat or if I added it with foam tape. I'm just going through once I was happy with that layout and popping these all into place with my liquid glue, and that is my card complete. So I hope this inspires you to get a little bit inky, get a little bit color storied on your next card project, and I hope that you have the most amazing week. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button and check out Possum Stamps Instagram for even more crafty inspiration. And until next time, happy crafting!